Hello, everybody. I'm going to watch a trailer that came out 4 weeks ago to a movie called Emily. It's got a girl in period dress, like back in the olden days. So I'm thinking that it might be about Emily Bronte, or it could be about Emily Dickinson, but I'm leaning more towards Emily Bronte. I would love a movie about Emily Dickinson, though. I think there is stuff about her, but I just haven't seen it yet. I love Emily Dickinson. I'm not as familiar with Emily Bronte. I do like the writings of the Bronte sisters, though. My favorite is Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, one of my favorite books. Love that book. Or it could be just a classic story called Emily. I think I'm getting it mixed up with Emma. Isn't there a story called Emma? Like a classic literature story. I don't know who wrote it. I haven't read it or seen a movie version to it yet, so I don't know. Anyways, I have no clue, so let's watch it.
Emily, how did you write Wuthering Heights?
Bronte.
Shall we begin?
I've never read Wuthering Heights. It's on my list. Is that the one with Heathcliff? Something. I think Heathcliff is one of the main characters. I've heard it referenced many times in lots of different things, like the movie Cold Mountain, I believe, if I'm not getting mixed up. They were reading Wuthering Heights and talking about Heathcliff. Like maybe there's sort of a love triangle going on in the book. It is remarkable that those sisters all wrote such, like, it wasn't just one of them, but like all of them, I think, wrote such classic books. Like they really had talent in their family, unless the conspiracies are right where they didn't all write their own books. I read a book that was like, people said it's completely made up, just junk, like conspiracy theory stuff. Talking about the Bronte sisters and saying that Charlotte Bronte was like really evil and there was like all these murder cover-ups and things like that, and maybe like, I don't know, some of them didn't really write their stories, that someone else wrote it and stuff like that. But there was like tons and tons of comments about how it is fake garbage, blah blah blah. So I don't know, I have to read more about them. I can't remember the name of the book, but you probably know what it is if you know anything about it. It was a book that was like all, what was it called? It was something about the Bronte sisters and like murder conspiracies, and they were because all of them died kind of young, didn't they? Like, or several of them did. And it was, in the book it said that Charlotte was like poisoning them, killing them or something. I don't know. Which could be true. I don't know. Like they all died. They died under kind of suspicious circumstances. So it's very possible that somebody was killing them. Okay. Listen to this, you guys, because this is a lot. So the Bronte sisters were raised mostly by their father, Patrick, who was a clergyman, and he outlived all of his children, and he seemed to have robust health even though his family did not. His wife Marie, or Mary, I think it's Marie, died of uterine cancer at the age of 38. Patrick's only son Branwell died in 1848, aged 31, although he also suffered from TB, like the rest of them did. For the most part, he was a heavy drinker and opium user, which left him in poor health. I do remember that from the book. I read the conspiracy theory book And in it, I believe he was actually murdered, but they made it look like it was just his drinking and opium use that kind of led to his death. But really, he was sped along in the death by somebody else, nefariously. Emily died just 4 months later, after catching a cold at Branwell's funeral. She also developed complications from TB and was just 30 when she passed away. Anne, the youngest sibling, was 29 when she died, a year after Emily. She too had TB and passed away during what was supposed to be a restorative trip to Scarborough. Charlotte remained at the parsonage in Haworth with her elderly father, who was blind by this time. So he wasn't completely in good health, but he did go blind. And in 1854 married Arthur Bell Nichols, Patrick's curate. Don't know what that means. Within 9 months, she was dead at 38 after developing severe morning sickness during early pregnancy. Although TB is given as a cause of death on her death certificate, medical professors subsequently researched her condition and concluded she was suffering from hyperemesis gravidarum, a condition that is treatable with fluid replacement drips today. In the 19th century, however, women were unable to eat or drink and could die from malnutrition and dehydration. At the time, this side effect of pregnancy was poorly understood. There was lots of death surrounding their family and suspicious things going on. They've done research to try to figure out why all of the Bronte siblings were dying off like that. And it says that their drinking water, they believe, came from springs which were contaminated by rainwater that had soaked through the church graveyard. Ew! I'm just reading this for the first time. Which was close to the parsonage where the Brontes lived. Long-term exposure to the bacterial infections this caused could have weakened the constitutions of the siblings and those of their neighbors, whose average lifespan was only around 26. Holy crap. All of the sisters were very short in stature. At the time, consumption was not thought to be a disease which passed between those living in close proximity to one another. The Bronte sisters' deaths were portrayed as the result of melancholy and grief that they literally just wasted away after the passing of the previous tragic family member. Now, of course, we know how easy it would have been for them to infect each other with the killer disease. So sad. If they had lived past their 20s and 30s, they could have maybe written some other great piece of literature. Isn't that crazy? Or maybe those pieces of literature are so great and well known because of their passing. Maybe they would have just been lost. Who knows? Emily looks she looks kind of depressed and in what they've shown so far.
Miss Emily Bronte.
You're off to become a wonderful teacher.
You know I don't like to meet new people.
What do you want to do?
Do you think I could be a writer? I have lots of stories.
Mr. Layton will be tutoring you in French.
He speaks with such poetry.
Any man can speak. What I want to know is, can he actually do?
Do what?
You're supposed to be an artist. So be an artist.
What is that?
I wrote it.
Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
Come on! Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
I have often struggled to understand you.
Your poetry.
Do not bring shame on this house, Emily.
Did you write Please. It's an ugly book.
There's something ungodly in your writing. I feel it when we're together.
You know they call you the strange one.
Everyone's strange if you look at them for long enough.
Who are you? You wait and see.
That's right up my alley. Some people probably look at that and think it sounds boring, but I think it looks really good. It reminds me of Jane Eyre. So they're saying Emily Bronte was kind of a strange, odd one. From what I've read, it seemed like Charlotte was a little bit more of the outcast, strange, odd one. I feel like everything people write about them is not exactly accurate. I mean, who knows these days? But didn't one of them have, like, they were engaged to somebody and then they left them and they were, like, extremely depressed and heartbroken about it or something? Maybe Emily. 'Cause it sounds familiar. Like, she was going to marry someone and then it didn't work out. She was extremely depressed about it and stuff like that. Kind of sounds like that might be Emily and might be what's going on in this movie. She kind of falls for a guy, but then he's like, your writing is ungodly. Oh my. And then that old man, I'm assuming is her father or something. I think they had a very like controlling father or something who wanted them to marry very well, and they all kind of almost, I'm not for sure, I might be remembering wrong, but I feel like they all kind of were like spinsters because their father was never satisfied with people they liked or whatever, if they even liked anybody. But yeah, this looks good to me. I don't know. I like it. I really need to read Wuthering Heights sometime. I'm really slow at reading. And I put off reading. I love reading. I love books. It's just like so much stuff going on in my life. You know, YouTube stuff, reading children's books to my daughter, doing the homework, trying to keep the house clean, all of that stuff adds up, and it's like there's not enough time in the day, and I have a ton of other books I have to read too, or I want to read. It's like I have to read them. So I don't know. Tell me what you thought in the comments. Have a nice day. Please like and subscribe. Bye.